Anyone who watched the offseason workout footage of Caitlin Clark probably noticed the same thing. She looked like she bulked up a little bit. She looked like she got a little bit stronger. And that was confirmed by Fever coach Stephanie White. I mean, it was confirmed by our eyes, but she also said so in a Q&A with The Athletic, talking about the physical strength that Caitlin Clark added in the WNBA offseason. And that's not a small thing. Because, Clark came fresh out of college, right to the WNBA, had to adjust on the fly, didn't have a chance for an offseason, had that Olympic break, and came back even better after the Olympic break. Now imagine a full WNBA offseason where she's been able to work on her game and work on her body. And I've compared Clark a little bit to LeBron James in the past. I know there's the Steph Curry comparisons because of the logo shots, but the way she commands an entire offense and is able to beat you off the dribble and the drive and getting to the rack, as well as distributing, reminds me of LeBron a lot. And if she's able to get even stronger, she actually finished at the cup extremely well last year. You add the rest of the arsenal that she's working on, and I mean, it's hard to really say it nowadays. Like, what's a different way to put it? Because I do think, an MVP season is loading for Caitlin Clark, but beyond just an MVP season, we're going to see things we've never seen before in the WNBA. So that is the deal with Clark. And here's the quotes from Stephanie White. She is stronger, first and foremost. This was with Richard Deitch at The Athletic. She's got a lot of self-awareness. She figured out right away that I need to get stronger. I can't get knocked around as much. She's done a great job of getting in the weight room and focusing on her strength in terms of low center of gravity, time under tension, all those things. I think the next step is efficiency, not so many turnovers, higher field goal percentages. She added, Clark is going to see all kinds of coverages, all kinds of matchups. It's working on how to become a little bit more efficient, whether that's angles of attack, not avoiding contact, how we get by people, different cadences in dribbling, different cadences in footwork, and different finishes around the rim. For us as coaches, it's moving her off the ball a little bit more so she's not getting worn out in game. We're challenging her on the defensive end of the floor as well, being a better defender. As an opponent, you want to attack a good offensive player by making them play on the defensive end, putting them through the ringer. We will be creative as a staff in how we utilize her and how we utilize her talents. Well, first of all, just reading those quotes, Stephanie White's a great coach, or at least a great basketball mind. I mean, I've seen enough from her to put the two things together and, take the leap and say she's a great coach because of what she did with the Connecticut Sun. But just hearing those, like, that's spot on. Clark did not shoot the three great last year. If that goes up a tick, if those percentages go up a tick, look at what her numbers are going to be like. If she does add those other ways to finish in the mid-range with the floaters, the different ways of attack, different pacing, all that stuff, that's what White is alluding to. It's what the developmental coach talked about. Switching gears. Sometimes you want to go full speed ahead, and Clark is at her best when she plays fast, and the Fever want to run. There is no question about that. They added flash in Natasha Howard, right? So that is still plan A. But you have to have plan B, plan C, plan D, all those things. How does Clark get better as an isolation scorer? How does she get more efficient? How does she absorb the contact and still finish? How does she, work on a little back to the basket move that can get her separation with a little fall away? There's all these intricacies, the bag, if you will. And her passing makes it so dangerous. Not to mention the upgrades on the floor next to her. I mean, those two things in unison are nearly impossible to deal with. I mean, that's what I think. I really do think the Fever are going to be nearly impossible to deal with because Clark is going to get better. And if Clark had just gotten better from last year's team, obviously they would take a leap. But not only is Clark going to take that leap, and considering where she was, like she was already like historic, where is she going? Right? And then you upgrade the personnel around her. You keep Aaliyah Boston, another year of familiarity. When you hear Aaliyah Boston talk, she understands the game so well too. So they'll just continue to implement new things, continue to learn how to play off one another. Kelsey Mitchell is so fast. She gets down the floor. That's something you got to look out for if you're the defense. Not to mention she can score by herself. She's maybe the best option on the entire team as far as just, give her the basket and let her basketball and let her score. Then on top of that, you bring in Dewana Bonner, who can be comfortable on various parts of the floor, and there's no situation she's going to see that's going to throw her off. You add Natasha Howard, who's a perfect fit for Clark running the floor and can also put the ball in the basket. And then Sophie Cunningham is another shooter. Lexi Hull is back as a shooter. Turner can run the floor in those spot minutes. Colson can give Clark a breather and maybe play alongside her for small spurts. I mean, there's just so many different combinations, especially when the defense is likely to get better because they upgraded the defensive personnel. Howard may not be in her absolute defensive prime, but former defensive player of the year. Obviously, Bonner has length and can really play defense. They put her on Clark in a playoff series. Turner, two-time all-defensive player. Colson, a defender on the point of attack from a championship team in the past. Cunningham, a player who can defend on the wing. And not only does that allow you to turn defense into offense, which lets the Fever run, but it also, it's so much harder to score when you have to take the ball out of the basket because that allows the defense to get back on the other side and be set. It's why you see a lot of coaches not call timeout when their team is out and running. Remember when Christy Sides called some timeouts when Caitlin Clark seemed to have the advantage and it was like, because she had the advantage. Let her run the show. And, if you call timeout, you let the defense get set. If the offense scores and they get back on defense, they get to get set. So what do you do against that half court set? It's a lot harder to score in the half court. Now, that's part of what Clark has to work on because she has to be able to get those tough buckets when the entire defense is focused on you or things aren't easy. And that'll be the next step. But you want to get those easy buckets first. And I think by upgrading the people that are running the floor, upgrading the people that are protecting the rim, and, everything else, good luck. That's the way I put it. Good luck. With Clark, there's just been so much other stuff, but it really does come back to basketball. That's the start of everything. The jumping off point, the basis for everything else that has happened since was always about basketball. And she's when it comes to ability to see the floor, she's as good as anyone I've ever seen. And when it comes to the women's game, there's never been anybody that just popped off the screen like that to me. And it's kind of frightening to believe that she's going to get even stronger and that her rookie season is probably going to be the worst she's ever going to be.